They say everyone knows the prophet Elijah, but that's a lie. People know the stories told on the surface, the ones repeated in sermons 1,000 times, fire from heaven, the drought, the whirlwind. But the real Elijah, the one hidden deep within the folds of Scripture, is someone almost nobody has ever met. A figure far more mysterious, far more unsettling, and far more supernatural than most believers ever imagined. And the miracles he performed, the ones no one talks about, are not only stranger than the famous ones, they change everything. Because behind the well-known stories, behind the dramatic scenes taught to children, there is a darker, quieter, more enigmatic trail of events. Milestones of power that appear for a moment, then vanish as if deliberately erased from memory. And once you notice them, once you start connecting the dots, you start to wonder whether Elijah ever functioned like a normal human at all, or whether he walked this world as something more, something in between, something caught in the thin space where heaven touches earth. And that's where the first hidden miracle appears. A miracle most people assume they understand, but they don't, not even close. When Elijah stands before King Ahab and declares that no rain will fall except at my word, the text doesn't describe a ritual, a prayer, or even a command from heaven. It simply says he said it, and instantly nature obeyed. That moment is not presented as Elijah asking God for drought. It's presented as Elijah announcing it, as though the world itself responded to him. Why does Scripture avoid explaining how he did it? Why is there no detail, no description, no explanation of the mechanics behind one of the most terrifying miracles ever recorded? The silence is almost deliberate, as if the writers knew there was something too great, too dangerous, too impossible for the average reader to fully understand. Something about Elijah's connection to the divine that transcended normal prophetic authority. Something that allowed him not just to speak for God, but to speak with God's weight. And right when you start wondering what made Elijah so different, so powerful, the story slips into the next miracle. A miracle just as strange, just as hidden, and just as frequently ignored. The miracle of the ravens. People laugh at the idea. Birds brought him food. They treat it like a cute detail from a children's Bible. But look closer. The ravens brought him bread and meat every morning and every evening. Not scraps, not garbage, not leftovers. Bread and meat. Where did the bread come from? Who baked it? Who prepared the meat? Where did it originate? Ravens don't cook. They steal, they scavenge, they tear apart corpses. Yet here they delivered fresh meals twice a day with precision. Never early, never late, like messengers working a divine schedule. Some scholars quietly whisper that the ravens may have taken food from the royal palace, that Elijah may have been fed by the very regime he was condemning, that God may have used the wealth of the wicked to keep his prophet alive. But the text never confirms it, never denies it, and never explains it. It simply leaves the reader staring into the darkness, wondering how deep the supernatural really goes, and how far God is willing to bend reality around one man. But the ravens are nothing compared to the next hidden miracle, one so subtle that most people overlook it entirely. After the drought begins, Elijah approaches a widow in Zarephath, a poor woman preparing what she believes will be her final meal, and Elijah asks her to feed him first. It sounds harsh. It sounds unfair. But something strange happens next. The flour in her jar and the oil in her jug never run out. They replenish every day, not all at once. Not in abundance, but just enough. This is not a miracle of multiplication, not like Jesus feeding the 5,000. This is a miracle of continuous creation, a miracle that operates in the background, quietly, constantly, day after day after day, without stopping. For months, maybe years, the ingredients reappear right when needed, as if reality is resetting itself inside that tiny home. And here's what no one talks about. The text never says the widow saw the miracle. It never says Elijah saw it. It never says they opened the jar and watched flour pour from nowhere. It only says that every day there was enough. A miracle that hides itself while it's happening. A miracle that looks ordinary until you realize it has been functioning like a heartbeat in the shadows the entire time. But then the pattern shifts. Something darker happens. The widow's son dies, not from hunger, not from disease. Scripture doesn't say what killed him. He simply collapses. Life leaves his body, and Elijah does something no prophet had ever done before. Elijah brings the boy back from death, but what actually happened in that room is left in shadows. Scripture only says he cried out, stretched himself over the lifeless body 3 times, and then the child breathed again. No explanation, no details, no witness. Why 3 times? Why physical contact? Why such intensity? The text remains silent, as if something occurred that humans weren't meant to understand. Elijah emerges calm, almost expecting the miracle, as though resurrection was not foreign to him. Then comes another hidden moment people read without realizing its impossibility. Elijah outruns Ahab's royal chariot, a man powered by something beyond human limits, racing through a storm, covering miles faster than horses. Not a quick burst, an extended run. The Bible presents it casually, but nothing about it is normal. And when Elijah collapses in despair under a tree, an angel gives him a simple meal, 1 meal. Yet it sustains him for 40 days and 40 nights of travel. No rest, no additional food, no water mentioned, just relentless movement fueled by something not of this world. The angel's words are subtle. Eat, for the journey is too much for you, too much for any man, except the one God keeps touching, guiding, strengthening in ways few ever notice. Then the mysterious encounter on Horeb. A wind so violent it tears mountains apart, but God isn't in the wind. An earthquake, but God isn't there. A fire, but even that isn't his voice. Then, a whisper, a sound so thin it can mean silence itself. And that is what makes Elijah cover his face, not the earthquake, not the fire, the silence. Whatever he heard or sensed was so overwhelming that Scripture refuses to record it. And finally, the miracle that has no comparison. Elijah never dies. No sickness. No final words. No grave. A whirlwind appears. A chariot of fire descends. Elijah rises and vanishes into the unseen realm. Not symbolically, not metaphorically. Physically. Where did he go? Why him? Why only him? The Bible never explains. Instead, Elijah becomes a lingering presence in prophecy, a figure expected to return, a threshold between the natural and the divine. His life is not defined by the loud miracles everyone knows, but by the quiet, hidden ones almost no one notices, whispers of something far greater happening behind the scenes. Maybe those secrets were never fully revealed because the world wasn't ready for what Elijah truly was. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it with someone who loves mysteries.